as you get older, right, as a person, as a coach, you start to appreciate things more and put more of a focus on things. And I definitely think there were some years as a coach where I didn't put enough emphasis on that, or overlooked some things, but have gained such a more of an appreciation for it, especially these last 2 years specifically. We've had some unbelievable seniors who I've learned a lot from being around, and just the selflessness that they've had. Hunter came home every night over the summer and just talked about, how am I going to bring these guys together? You know, he was one of the best captains we ever have. I mean, you just don't hear that anymore. I mean, a lot of those dinner conversations, right, are focused on my offers or my playing time or getting more touches or whatnot. Hunter was, how am I going to bring these guys together? And he did it. And he did it. He taught other guys how to do it. And it's been a special thing to be a part of, observe, and help us grow from. We live in a time where, like, everybody wants things right now, right? The word patience is not something that's in a lot of people's vocabulary. So getting people to, incoming freshmen and parents to say, like, you have to let the process run its course a little bit. Just because Johnny's timetable was a certain way doesn't necessarily mean your son's is going to be, and that's a real challenge, to see the big picture, to understand that you kind of have to go through stages and phases a lot of time to get to where you want to be. In a perfect world, you want everybody to play freshman. We really try to keep our freshmen together, because I think that's so important, to get them to come together as a team and to gel, and also to allow, like you said, allow that natural progression of moving up. But sometimes there are things that can alter that, right? Sometimes you have a need at a position where you've got to pull guys up a little earlier than you want to. Sometimes you just have young men who are ready, right? They're just ready to go. And we actually just talked to our freshmen about that today.
All right, welcome to My Connect Podcast. Today we have Coach Dan Sabello, the head coach of Don Bosco Prep. Coach Sabello, thank you so much for your time.
Great to be here, Doc.
Yes. All right, so, I mean, what a beautiful field. I mean, perfect day. So real quick, just want to get into your background. I know you played quarterback, you went to Monmouth. So how do you start loving football? When did that start?
It started pretty young for me. I grew up in a small town, Bosco, probably about 20 minutes southeast of here. And we started playing tackle football in 5th grade. And that was really like when I really caught the bug. And I remember going to Monmouth when I was making my schedule my freshman year, and they were talking about picking a major, and I had no idea what I wanted to major in. And that sophomore year, same thing. I was undecided because I was just probably too much focused on football. And ended up majoring in business and took a job in New York City. And that was like the first fall I wasn't around football in so many years, and just missed it right away. I started going back and volunteering. My brother was still in high school at the time, so I started going back and kind of volunteering and showing up to practice when I could in games. And finally, the head coach looked at me and said, you want to coach. I could tell you want to get into coaching. And the rest is history. I went back to school. I got my teaching certificate, and here we are 25 years later.
Wow. So were you always a quarterback?
Always a quarterback, yeah. Ever since 5th grade through high school into college.
So what made you pick that position?
I'll tell you what, I guess I always had a pretty good arm, and just kind of fell in love with it. Just kind of fell in love with being able to be kind of in charge and being so, involved in every facet of the game. You had to know what everybody was doing, not just what you were doing, and then learning defense and really getting that true appreciation for how much goes into every single play in the game of football.
Yeah, so I feel like if you were a quarterback, that's pretty much a pretty good transition to a coach.
It really does, kind of like a catcher in baseball, right? Like, you have to know what everybody's doing on every single play. You have to study defenses. You have to be able to go over to your offensive guard and say, hey, you needed to, step with your right foot on that play and block that gap. You can't just be locked into your assignment.
So you came back, coach at Bogota, and then you took over the head coaching job over there as well.
Yep.
And then you guys went to states, correct?
Yeah, we had an undefeated state championship season in 2006, and that was a big thing for us because the school had never won a championship before. And it's great to be back at my alma mater, and I enjoyed that experience, and that helped prepare me for where I am now.
Yeah. So, all right, talk me through about that. So, how did that transition from Agoda to Bosco?
Yeah, so spent 9 years at Paramus High School. Went to a higher level, bigger public school. Got to play against some of the parochial schools, and had some great teams there. Some phenomenal young men and families that I got to coach. And well, like a lot of things, high school football's changed, and you were always kind of keeping your eye on these parochial schools and fighting to keep kids home in town who because they were just attracted to these schools. And it's such a top-notch brand of football that I think everybody wants to be a part of it, right? Everybody wants to try to compete at the highest level, and that's what made it so attractive.
So, what were one thing that you had to adjust as soon as you became a head coach at Bosco?
Well, there's a lot more going on, right? There's a lot more to manage. Definitely attracting players, right? Attracting the players that you want in your program, and of course the families that go with it. And this is a special place, like you said. It's an unbelievable campus. To me, it's got such a well-rounded offering from the academics, obviously the athletics, the facilities, and most of all the people. Like the people and the culture that's around this school. It's such an enjoyable place to be every day.
You touched on a really good point, culture, because again, I've seen great locker room. I've seen very bad locker room. So how do you keep the locker room in the same page, on the same, pretty much like same step, especially leading up into this upcoming season?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And as you get older, right, as a person, as a coach, you start to appreciate things more and put more of a focus on things. And I definitely think there were some years as a coach where I didn't put enough emphasis on that, or overlooked some things, but have gained such a more of an appreciation for it, especially these last 2 years specifically. We've had some unbelievable seniors who I've learned a lot from being around, and just the selflessness that they've had. I always talk about a young man named Hunter Detrano, who was a 2025, a recent graduate, who his mother said something to me, I'll never forget it. She said to me at the end of the season, because we had put such an emphasis that summer, this time of year going into that 25 season. And she said, Hunter came home every night over the summer and just talked about, how am I going to bring these guys together? He was one of the best captains we ever have. I mean, you just don't hear that anymore. I mean, a lot of those dinner conversations, right, are focused on my offers or my playing time or getting more touches or whatnot. Hunter was, how am I going to bring these guys together? And he did it. And he did it. He taught other guys how to do it. And it's been a special thing to be a part of, observe, and help us grow from.
Wow. I mean, again, I'm really lucky to get to work with like all the high school kids, and like you mentioned, like seeing them develop from just like freshman year all the way to senior year, seeing them grow into like a young man, just like ready to like take on the world, going to college. I think it's the most rewarding thing for me. And I know for you as a head coach, like, cause you've seen these guys from like, well, you're gonna have your camp next week, so you're gonna see these guys at your camp, and next thing you know, they're gonna be in your doorstep next year.
Yeah, I mean, we have a youth camp 2nd through 8th grade, and we have guys on our roster now. I mean, Aiden O'Neill, who's committed to Notre Dame, he was at this camp back when he was in like 5th grade, 6th grade. So it is so rewarding and so enjoyable. And at the same time, Doc, it's also one of the most challenging things too as a coach. And you mentioned that before, because we live in a time where like everybody wants things right now, right? The word patience is not something that's in a lot of people's vocabulary. So getting people to, incoming freshmen and parents to say like, you have to let the process run its course a little bit. Just because Johnny's timetable was a certain way doesn't necessarily mean your son's is going to be, and that's a real challenge, to see the big picture, to understand that you kind of have to go through stages and phases a lot of time to get to where you want to be.
Now, do you have a process for that as far as like getting kids through your system, your development?
As far as what specifically? Like
as far as like, you have a kid's coming in as a freshman, how do you ready him to like take the next step, like go from freshman to JV, in varsity?
Yeah, I mean, listen, in a perfect world, you want everybody to play freshman. We really try to keep our freshmen together, because I think that's so important, to get them to come together as a team and to gel, and also to allow, like you said, allow that natural progression of moving up. But sometimes there are things that that can alter that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have a need at a position where you've got to pull guys up a little earlier than you want to. Sometimes you just have young men who are ready,
Yeah.
right? They're just ready to go. And we actually just talked to our freshmen about that today. You might be ready to go, but remember, we got a lot of good players here, right? If we're doing our job and our program has depth, you got juniors and seniors ahead of you. You may be ready to go, but again, that's where that patience has to kick in a little bit. Opportunities will come.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think one of my favorite thing, one of my Jets quarterback, who I'm a really good friend with, he always say like, I just need to be where my feet are. And I think that's like the most simplest thing because you can only control with what's in front of you and where you are right now.
Absolutely. And WIN, right? You want to win, but you want to focus on what's important now.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's important to you as a coach? Like at the end of the day, like, like you have to put in so many hours. Like we all know being a head coach is not just a clock in, clock out. Like at the end of the day, like what's important to you when you go home at night, you're like, man, that was a good day.
Well, making sure we're preparing guys not just to be great football players, but to be great people as well, and get them ready for life after Bosco. And that's one of the most rewarding things as well when guys come back from college and they say, hey, coach, like we're ready for our workouts, or we have no problem doing the conditioning. We have no problem doing any of the strength stuff. This program helped get me better. Or young men when they come back and they're going through, maybe a tough time in their jobs, or they're starting a business and they're dealing with adversity, and they're like, hey, coach, we just think back to, when we were in tough times here in practices or after a tough loss, what the message was, how we responded, how you get through those tough times. We're now using that in the real world in our lives, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just get excited about this season. So, like, what can we expect from the team this season?
Yeah. Coming off a really good year. Lost some really good seniors, some like we talked about, high character, talented guys, but we have a lot back as well. We have a lot of guys coming back. We got a very motivated football team. Biggest challenge for us, Doc, is going to be kind of what we said before, like enjoy every day, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. We can't look ahead. We can't allow ourselves to look ahead. We know what our goals are and our aspirations are, but you got to go one day at a time. You got to go 1 week at a time. And like I said, enjoy those moments.
And now, obviously, me being a PT, I'm super biased to this. What are some tips that you usually give your guys when it comes to like taking care of their body?
Rest. I'm big on sleep. Again, dealing with today's athlete, right? Dealing with technology, being up on your phone to the wee hours of the morning, and when you got a big day ahead of you, we tell them all the time, like, sleep is better than any drug you can put in your body, right? It's the cheapest thing that you're going to get that's out there in the market. Like, take advantage of it. Rest, sleep.
Yeah, and then as far, you already touched on the phone aspect. So again, I've seen the change. I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've seen the change on how kids are so tuned in into what's going on social media. How do you keep them in some way like focused on the football aspect and not to get overwhelmed by like who's getting offer and all of that stuff?
That's, again, a real challenge and a real thing. Try to just continue talking to them about like controlling what you can control, not worrying about anybody else, and being the best version of yourself. And it's easier said than done, because it's such a natural routine for what they do and what their daily life is like. But I think some guys, you keep talking to them about it, and little by little they start to realize it.
It's funny. I did an event for this nonprofit. They deal with like pretty much help with high school athletes, teaching them how to like manage social media, but also teaching them how they can take advantage of social media. I think the craziest thing now is that most of the extortion online happen to male athletes, which is scary to me, right?
Sure.
Most of the guys when I come in, and again, I follow all my athletes, right? So I keep tabs with them, whether they're in high school or in college, right? I had one guy that was, he was at Pitt, and then he threw like a pool party, and I text him like, bro, I don't think it's a good look. I was like, you're gonna get in trouble. I was like, maybe don't post this. Like stuff like that. Yeah. It's so hard because like when I was in high school, what do we have? MySpace, Facebook, right? Like.
Yeah. Well, again, it's continuing education, right? It's just that consistent messaging that all of, not just me, all of our coaching staff and your leaders, right? That's where that culture of your program and that leadership, when these guys really communicate amongst each other, when that, imagine a situation like you shared, but a senior sees that and reaches out to his teammates, says, get that down. What are you doing? We can't have that. That's not what we're all about.
Yeah.
That's the culture we really try to.
So, is there a way that you can spot like, hey, this person is going to be great for the next class as a captain? Like, how do you spot leadership early on?
Yeah, so we have leadership committee that we have a coach kind of is kind of takes the lead on, and they have, like biweekly meetings and whatnot, and you have guys who it's important to them, and you have guys who sometimes they're just naturally really good at it, and you try to identify those guys and help them to grow.
What are some little things that, if other kids are listening to this, that looking to play for you, that might not be a big deal to them, but is a big deal to you?
I'm old school, like being fundamentally sound, being really good. Everybody wants to advance and do the newest, coolest, hippest thing that's out there online, but like being fundamentally sound, taking a lot of pride in having a great stance, and your footwork's clean, and your body language and your eye contact with coaches, and speaking clearly, speaking with confidence, all those little things that I think get overlooked a lot in society, I think they're still really important.
So, I was literally talking to one of my guys about this. So, Knicks just won. So go Knicks, Knicks in 5. But every single game that they come back, I was telling like, if you look at Jalen Brunson, he never looked like he was down.
There you go.
Like you can't talk, you can't teach that, right?
No, I mean, it was so fun being a Knicks fan and watching that whole journey, and him and even his quotes, right? Like how many different times did he have an opportunity to kind of get back at somebody who said something bad about him, or take a
Take a dig at them, like,
take a dig, and he just always takes the high road. That's just who he is, and like you said, his confidence, his body language, his determination. That's a tremendous role model for any athlete.
So I like this question. So last year, you guys had a great season. What was your favorite game last year?
Oof. It was a really fun season. I think that I really can't pick a favorite, but I'll throw out there like being down in Texas, being the first New Jersey team to ever go down and play a football game in Texas, being in the environment we were in, and then the guys coming back from the adversity of being down at halftime. That's something special. You don't get to say you did something for the first time a lot in life, right? And that was we got to do something for the first time. That was cool.
And leading up to that, how do you prepare the guys to go into like a way bigger stadium, a hotter environment?
Yeah, sometimes you get a little lucky. We got a little fortunate there because we were very concerned about the heat, and we did our best. We prepared a lot for the heat, but we got lucky because it was only in like the high 80s down there. Because I had a lot of people tell me, including college coaches from Texas, you can't really prepare for that heat. Even the guys who play there every day, it's that brutal. But our guys worked hard, and we were in shape, and that definitely helped.
Yeah. I remember watching that game like, man, they are really putting it on.
Jeremiah had the big play.
That's a huge one. As far as this season go, where are you guys traveling to?
We're playing in Philadelphia this year. We're playing Roman Catholic High School in Philly. We have Armwood High School from Florida coming up here. So 2 tough out-of-state games right out of the box.
Wow, that's exciting. So, one of the last thing I always like to ask, right, because you coach tons of guys, and it's so hard for you to pick, but I always like to ask, like, what is one of your favorite alumni, especially the one that is not heavily recruited, but pan out just to be just a solid guy after graduating and really make a career?
Yeah. I've been here 7 years now, so there's a bunch of guys as the Rolodex spins in my mind. But my first year here, we had a young man, Colin Ramos, who I had watched some tape of the 2018 season and just loved the way he played, and got here and got to be around him in the off season, and I'll put his work ethic up there with everyone. and he had a really tough recruiting process. He should have been the Gatorade Defensive Player of the Year in New Jersey that year. He was an All-State defensive player, but the measurables weren't what a lot of the college coaches wanted. So he went to a ton of camps. He did everything right. This young man did everything right on the field, off the field, and he ended up committing to Annapolis and going to Navy, where he had an amazing career. He was a 3-year starter. He was a captain. He was their leading tackler. He was all conference. He had great games in the Army Navy game every year, which I got to go to and see him play, which was an unbelievably proud moment. And he's the oldest of 3 brothers. We got to his youngest brother Kane is actually here now, and Kyle is at Navy prep. He just finished his prep year. He'll be going to Navy next year. So there's something in the DNA in that family for sure. But Colin was one of my favorites.
That's great. I lied. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
So, and I get this all the time, and especially from I work with athletes, but parents are always asking about, like, what I see when it comes to, like, the changes in NIL and, like, how it's impacting these young men, especially, like, being able to obviously really make a living right off the bat. So how do you prepare, again, guys that you have here? Again, a lot of people are heavily recruited here. How do you make sure that they are ready for that kind of, obstacle and challenge in a way? Because when you're heavily recruited and people know how much money you could possibly make, there's a lot of distraction.
Sure.
And you also got to keep them grounded at the same time. So how do you prep them for that? Because I feel like I can only see this getting bigger, and it's like really not control at this moment.
It's changing by the year, So just try to provide a network of people that you trust, people that you've been around, to make sure they have those resources to talk to and educate themselves and ask questions. And keep guys humble. Humility is a big deal, and I think a lot of the families appreciate being in those type of positions. But you can't forget about how hard you work to get there and the people that help make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think off camera we were talking about guys that, like, were heavily recruited, but then we don't really get to hear much anymore. And I think, again, we mentioned one of the best alum over here, like Colin Ramos, which he always says, he's like, I'm gonna do a camp in Bosco, so you gotta reach out to him.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about that season where, like, Kyle was undersized, unrecruited, and then turned out, he made the best out of his opportunity, which is only one.
No doubt. Kyle's another winner. You saw it when you're around somebody consistently like that every day. You saw his work ethic. You saw how explosive he was. You saw the desire he had. And, I mean, you can't say you're surprised to see what he's gone on to do, because we saw it every day. His senior year was unbelievable, and he wasn't going to let anything get in his way.
Mm-hmm. And there were some parents listening to this, and they were really considering sending their son over here. What are some advice you have for them, and what are some expectations you have for those parents?
Oof. Well, listen, I have two young sons myself, so it's just trying to set the example, right? Like, everybody, you kind of like going back to what we said before, like, let's get better today. Like, let's focus on doing one thing better today. You can't do 5 or 6. You can't get better at 5 or 6 things at once, right? So let's pick one thing and work at it and get better. And once we feel like we got that down, we're going to move on to the next thing, and just doing things the right way, and have realistic expectations. Like, understand, you've got to be able to, hit singles first before you just start hitting home runs, right? Let's get a couple first downs before we expect to have 1 or 2 play drives. And I think that we have a process and a structure in which we do that. And if you stick with it, the sky's the limit for where you can end up.
Awesome. Coach, thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure, man.
I really appreciate it. And then the camp is next week?
Next week, June 29th. We'll be here 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and looking for the next Ironman.
Perfect. All right, guys, make sure you sign up for that. And Coach Sabello, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Great job, Doc.
Thank you.
That was fun.